Yeah. Analytics off the chain, other channels not the same. Jake and Kyle, you know the name. Headliner Nation, we running the game. I'm a headliner.
Yo, Headliner Nation, it is almost time for kickoff. Kyle back here with the Fantasy Headliners. Our last free weekend before it is football bliss for the next 18 weeks. And then obviously throw in the playoffs and everything after that. But it is time. If you haven't drafted already, you're likely wrapping up your drafts this weekend or over the course of the next week. If you have already drafted, then you are trying to put the finishing touches on your team, maybe hitting the waiver wire, maybe making a trade or two. You're getting ready for that championship run, though. In this episode, we want to take a look back at some of the running backs that we have talked about this offseason. In particular, I want to go back through and touch on all of my must-have running backs. There are going to be links to each video down in the description. So, for instance, I might bring up Mike Davis, who I talked about as a must-have running back. I'm going to give you a link to that video down in the description, so when this video is done, you can go watch the detailed breakdown. But I'm going to tell you what made him a must-have running back for me, why I may think that way, or what has changed to maybe look at it now as, yeah, Mike Davis is good to have, but we got to be a little bit careful of this or that. So we're going to do a little what has changed as well. Obviously, some of these videos we've put out have been over the course of the last couple of months, and things have changed. I want to make sure I keep you all updated on that so you can be making the best decisions possible for your team. So let's go ahead and roll into it, and we're going to talk about who I just mentioned, Mike Davis of the Atlanta Falcons. When I talked about him in my must-have running back video, I talked about the contributions that he made last year with Carolina while Christian McCaffrey was out. And not only that, I went a little bit in depth about why Atlanta is a bad defense. They're going to be passing more often. It's kind of a fallacy because Mike Davis last season, well, he was a top 24 running back. He had a couple of RB1 weekends, and he actually had less touches per game than what the Atlanta Falcons running backs averaged last season. And last season, it wasn't that great for the Atlanta Falcons either. So it's not like we're looking at a team that has greatly changed. No, there is still a possibility that Mike Davis could make that work. Last year, he did help out in the passing game quite a bit. 67 targets, 59 receptions, 5th and 4th in the league, respectively. He also had 373 receiving yards, 9th in the league. But he also was pretty good at avoiding tackles. He made guys miss last season, which helped with some of those second chance yards, adding a little bit extra for you. 43 avoided tackles, which was 7th in the league. And think about it, Mike Davis really only started 12 games last season. And the games that he didn't start, he didn't really do anything. It was Christian McCaffrey getting a majority of the touches. So it was really only 43 avoided tackles in those 12 games. So when you take a look at his .26 avoided tackles per attempts, that was 2nd in the league. So Mike Davis last season on a per touch basis actually played really well. He had 159 fantasy points across those 12 starts that I just mentioned, which came out to 13.27 fantasy points per game in half PPR leagues. That would have made him, that makes him the RB16 in 2020. If you're looking on a per game basis, that makes him the RB16. So when I talked about Mike Davis and brought him up constantly, it wasn't, hey, you're going to draft him to be your RB1. This is a guy that in the 5th or 6th round, he was still hanging around as potentially your RB3. Now, I did make the point, too, that depending on what happened with the offseason, there was a possibility that maybe we saw his ADP come up into the late 3rd round. That never happened. We never had to go that early, which was great. But since then, we've had some news over the past couple of weeks that I think we do need to bring up, and it's Wayne Gallman. We talked about Wayne Gallman. Jake specifically brought him up first in a Deep Sleepers video way back in the offseason. He's cut from San Francisco, and now he lands in Atlanta. And with Wayne Gallman, this is a guy that averaged 3.63 yards after contact per attempt last season, which was fourth most in the NFL. So they've also added another guy that can help with the workload. Is he going to take Mike Davis completely out of the game plan? No, I don't think so. They did. I don't know if they ended up putting in a claim for Royce Freeman or not. If they did, that would have. Royce Freeman is a guy that if he would have come in, I would have said he could absolutely take touches away from Mike Davis right away. But he didn't. He goes to Carolina instead. So now we bring in Wayne Gallman, who has kind of a mixed history. I mean, last year, instead of Saquon Barkley while he was out, Wayne Gallman had a pretty decent season. But there's been other times too where Wayne Gallman has been allowed to carry some of the workload there and hasn't performed that well. Is he a starting running back? No. Is he going to be the guy that unseats Mike Davis? No. But I think Mike Davis, valued as an RB3, is perfect because I think you're going to look at Mike Davis as getting a decent amount of touches. He can help out in the passing game. Heck, he could end up becoming the number 3 target on this offense, potentially, if they're willing to give him some targets. So he still is an RB3, as someone I'm still taking a look at. His ceiling is starting to get lower and lower, but on a weekly basis, if you need to start someone in your flex hoping you get double-digit points, Mike Davis could easily find those double-digit points for you. Moving on to my next must-have running back that I talked about this offseason was Darrell Henderson. Now, I'm not going to go into Darrell Henderson too much here because I broke him down basically with 2 pretty in-depth videos. And his per-touch stats last year, his advanced analytics last season, were just as good, if not better than Cam Akers. So this fallacy that Cam Akers was going to be a guy that was going to be a low-end RB1, he gets hurt, and now Darrell Henderson still doesn't have any value, was left in the dust because he was just as good as Cam Akers last season. So now he gets the backfield to himself. People still aren't high on him. He's still a guy that you can get. I saw him going like 4th or 5th round. And then Sony Michel comes in. So Darrell Henderson, he's still going to be big play, all right? Darrell Henderson is a guy that can just snap the end off a defense at any point in time. And again, the link for the Darrell Henderson must-have video is going to be down below in the comments. So after the video is done, you can go watch everything I talked about with Darrell Henderson. Obviously, he's the incumbent as well. So he's the guy that's now been in this offense for 3 seasons. He knows the playbook. Sean McVay knows him. He knows Sean McVay. He knows what to do. Sony Michel is coming in with just over a week to prep and get out there. So it's going to be up to Darrell Henderson. If Darrell Henderson comes out and smashes right away, he's going to keep Sony Michel on the sideline more times than not. If Darrell Henderson struggles, you're going to see Sony Michel slowly get worked into the game plan a little bit more as he gets more familiarized with the game plan and the playbook and what he needs to be doing out there. But Sony Michel is a guy that has never been able to stay healthy. We talk about Todd Gurley's arthritic knees. Well, guess what? Sony Michel could end up being the same exact way. He is a guy that had knee problems coming out of college. He's always been a guy that has had knee problems, and there is no guarantee he stays healthy. And if he doesn't, there's no one there to push Darrell Henderson. Darrell Henderson, still to me, a guy, if you drafted him as your RB2, yeah, you might be disappointed on some weeks if he doesn't end up reaching some of that upside because Michel keeps getting more and more touches. But if Michel gets hurt, goes down for any reason, or if Henderson is smashing to begin the year, you're going to be just fine. Myles Gaskin is a guy I talked about as a must-have running back as well, and some of y'all got pretty scared about that when for the first preseason game, the Dolphins go out there and they said Malcolm Brown out as the starting running back. And then all of a sudden there's a little bit of talk from the coaching staff that, oh, this is going to be a committee. And then Myles Gaskin ends up coming out the next week. He's the starter, and he looks like above and beyond Salvin Ahmed and Malcolm Brown, the starting running back on this team. Myles Gaskin is going to be the guy as long as he doesn't get injured. He has the pass-catching ability to stay on the field whenever he wants, and he has the ability to make defenders miss. He's got that all wrapped up in what he can do on the football field. 388 receiving yards last year was 7th in the league. He had 8.26 yards per target, which was 5th. He had 402 yards after the catch, or yards after contact, which was 9th. He also had 9.8 yards after the catch per reception. 402 yards after the catch, which was 9th. 9.8 yards after the catch per reception, which was 5th. Now, if you're wondering why his receiving yards and his yards after the catch were so different, it's because a lot of the routes Myles Gaskin ran last season came out of the backfield. So he was catching the ball maybe 4 or 5 yards deep into the backfield, needing to pick up those extra yards and pick up yards past the line of scrimmage. So if he's getting 8.26 yards per target, if he's getting 9.8 yards after the catch per reception, this is a guy that on those receiving opportunities was getting first downs on a constant basis. He also averaged 1.87 yards per route run, 3rd in the league. And if you look at running backs that had at least 30 targets last season, his 87.2% catch percentage was 6th in the league, and his 9.46 yards per reception, which was 2nd. So this is a guy that was doing a lot of good things in the passing game. Gets hurt, isn't able to play all but 10 games last season, but he's coming back as the starter. We're going to see Myles Gaskin. Maybe he doesn't start the game, and I'm using air quotes right now that you can't see because maybe he doesn't start the game, but that doesn't mean anything. It doesn't matter if Salvon Ahmed or Malcolm Brown take the first snap out there. It just matters how much Myles Gaskin is getting out there after that. 0.22 avoided tackles per attempt, which was 5th in the league. He did have double-digit carries in 7 of the 10 games that he played, and he had 1 less touch on a per-game basis than what Aaron Jones and Jonathan Taylor did. So what has changed? Nothing. Nothing has changed for me with Myles Gaskin. They cut Gerard Dokes, so he's out of the equation now. He was another guy that you were like, oh, he could end up getting some touches, but he's gone. He's out of the equation now. So now you do have 3 running backs. The only thing that has changed is that the coaching staff has said that this is going to be a committee. You can say that all you want to, but a committee to me doesn't necessarily mean that they're all going to split and have the same amount of touches. Myles Gaskin could go out there and get 60% of the touches in this backfield, and he could get 50% of the touches and the other 50% split between Brown and Ahmed, and he's still going to be a game changer, and he's still going to make a difference, and he's still a guy that you drafted 5th or 6th round is potentially your RB2 or your RB3. I'm fine with him at either one right now. I don't think anything has changed for me. I'm still all aboard Myles Gaskin. There's not much to tell you about these next 2 guys. Aaron Jones is definitely a guy I was telling everybody he's dropping to the end of the 1st, early 2nd round, depending on how your drafts play out. If you can start your draft in the 1st round with a running back, and at the end of the at the beginning of the 2nd, if you draft at the end of the 1st, get Aaron Jones, you're going to win some league titles this year. He plays on a great offense. He's an efficiency monster. 5.49 yards per attempt were 3rd. 3.5 yards after contact per attempt was 6th. He had 38 avoided tackles, which was 11th. He had 712 yards after contact, which was 7th. He averaged 0.48 fantasy points per snap, which was 8th in the league. And he's got the big playability. He can take it to the house from anywhere on the field. He had 26 runs of 10 or more yards, which was 9th. 10 runs of 15 or more yards, which was 8th. And he had 4 runs of 40-plus yards, the most in the NFL. All 4 of those runs went for touchdowns. His 365 breakaway yards, which are essentially yards of 20, yards that come on runs of 20 or more yards, which were 4th in the league. So Aaron Jones, again, he touches the football, efficiency monster. He makes guys miss. He breaks tackles. He gets extra yards. He scores touchdowns. Last season, he was a RB1 last season with Jamal Williams and A.J. Dillon there. Now Jamal Williams is gone. Do you really think A.J. Dillon is going to get more work than what Jamal Williams did at the beginning of their tenure? Aaron Jones is the starter. He is the guy. What has changed? They brought in Randall Cobb, but Randall Cobb doesn't affect Aaron Jones in the passing game. He affects Big Bob Tunyon. That's what happened there. It's not affecting Aaron Jones. Nothing has changed for him. He is still, in my opinion, a high-end RB1. And the final guy Again, this link is going to be down in the video for you. Basically, what my must-have running back video with Derrick Henry went over was that there is a very, very big fallacy when it comes to the drop-off, quotes again that you can't see, when it comes to the drop-off after a guy runs for 2,000 yards. Derrick Henry is much different than any player that has ever run for 2,000 yards before. Derrick Henry does not have the type of usage before their 2,000-yard season that a majority of those running backs had. Derrick Henry is a lot bigger and a more stout physical running back than a lot of those running backs are. So that is a really important video for you to watch. The link, again, is down in the description below, so you can check it out after this video is done. Why is he a must-have running back for me? If you think that the drop-off because of 2,000 yards, because it's happened to other running backs, is going to be the reason why, that video disproves the fact that that happens, because Derrick Henry is nothing like those other running backs that have run for 2,000 yards. The pros, he's on a run-first offense. Even adding Julio Jones to this offense doesn't make it a team that's going to throw the ball down the field consistently. Mike Vrabel is still the head coach. Even though we have a different offensive coordinator, Mike Vrabel is the ground and pound. He is the guy leading it. He would not have said, hey, I want to bring this guy in as offensive coordinator if they didn't have philosophies that matched up. This has been a philosophy that has worked for them so far over the first part of the tenure of Mike Vrabel. It's not changing. It's going to be a run-first offense. It's going to set the passing game up for more success in terms of high-volume plays and bigger efficiency, but it doesn't mean that they're going to start throwing the ball 40, 50 times a game. And you can't stack the box against Derrick Henry. You just can't. You're not going to be able to. You got Julio Jones and A.J. Brown streaking down the field. You're not going to be able to stack the box. So what's changed? Nothing. He's still a must-have running back for me. I'm drafting him at the beginning of the first round, and I am playing with I'm putting him in my lineup. It doesn't matter the league. I don't care if it's full PPR, half PPR, standard. If it's standard, Derrick Henry's RB1. If it's half PPR, full PPR, he doesn't get enough touches out of the backfield in the passing game. It doesn't matter, ladies and gentlemen. He's still a high-end RB1, and he's proved that the last 2 seasons. There you have it. Kind of a look back at my must-have running backs. What's changed? What hasn't changed? Are they still there for me? What are we doing with them? All right. I put it all together here for you. And again, there's links down in the video description below, so you can go to all those videos and check them out after you're done watching this one. Do me a favor. If you're new here to the Fantasy Headliners, got to hit that subscribe button for me. If you are new here, stick around all season. We have got tons of content coming up. Starting with waiver wire video on Monday, start sit for every position, rankings for every position, so much stuff coming your way here very soon. Leave a comment down below. Has your mind changed on any of these guys since I first released my videos? And also hit the thumbs up for me down below. Appreciate it all. Stay safe, stay healthy. Good luck if you're finishing up your drafts this weekend, and I'll catch you on the next episode of the Fantasy Headliners.
I'm a headliner.